Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Welcome everyone to the Week in Italian Startup, where Nicola and I, we dissect the latest news happening in the Italian ecosystem. So what's up, Nick?
Ciao, Jack. It was great. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. So very interesting week, for at least for me, because there is a lot of corporate VC coming up. And you know that I get excited and I like the way people kind of building it. And
I thought of you as I was writing the newsletter. I was thinking that, man, Jack is going to have so much fun this week.
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to try to avoid getting too deep, but and keeping everything, on pace, but it's going to be hard because it's very, very interesting. All right. So with that said, let's get going, starting from the biggest round, I would say. Let's start with Bridge, logistics startup raising 1.5 million euros from Azimut, Gellify, and Exor Seeds. So that was pretty much the biggest round of last week, I would say. It's very specific and very technical, because what they're doing is basically Bridge is trying to make logistic like effortless and as smooth as possible by using digital tools. And I thought it was particularly interesting because again, this is a market that definitely needs some disruption, and they're there to trying to do something significant. So awesome.
Yeah, but this is an interesting play in the sense that this is a problem that is known to the market. So there are a few startups that are addressing this problem of filling up the capacity of trucks as they travel on the roads. So there are so many different layers of importance on this. So, I mean, cost, environmental impact. So there are, you see, quick, efficient, and green. So there are different levels that you can see in this round.
Yeah. Plus some new acronyms for us, which who are not at all well versed into the logistics services, and now we've learned something new, which is LTL, which is less than truckload, and FTL, which is not faster than light. Sorry for my nerd joke, but that's a full truckload. So that's pretty cool, because again, this is an optimization problem, as you were mentioning, and basically these guys are trying to find a way to actually optimize for not only for route but actually for loads. So that's very interesting for sure.
And regarding the rounds, we have a lot of usual suspects investing in the startup. So we've got Azimut and Gellify. As you know, they invest together with a specific fund, the Digitech fund, and then Exor Seeds, again on the radar.
Yeah, I mean, I think they liked it particularly. It's automotive, it's digital, perfect for them in a way. It tasted familiar, probably in a way.
Yeah, remember they have an entire brand of trucks in the family. So
there you go.
Yeah, makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. What I also really like is the fact that one founder in particular has a big background with the Flixbus and Lidl in terms of logistics. So that tells me that it's a very, very good signal for actually at least the proper building of the product and service. So it's probably someone that has seen that in a million ways. So that's super interesting also.
Yeah, the funny thing is that Flixbus moves people around, not trucks. So that's interesting. Whether they have some knowledge of algorithms or some kind of optimization approach that works with people and can be applied to goods.
Absolutely true.
That would be interesting.
I don't see any. Yeah, I see a perfect overlap. So that's gonna work for sure.
And the startup is very young. It was funded in 2021.
Yeah.
1 year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
1 year and a half.
Fantastic. So definitely good job. Happy. I mean, looking forward to see what's gonna happen. Actually, that's super interesting. All right, moving on. One of the second biggest round from last week is 1 million euro raised by Switcho, tariff comparison startup from CDP, Azimut, and other investor. Also, this is a company which I like a lot because it really touches some very exposed nerves and pains that people have like all the time, which is, you know, gas bills and the telephone bills and how there is non-transparency in the industry. I mean, it's getting better in the past 4 to 5 years, so that's awesome. And a lot of successful startups have been built to actually fix this problem. Switcho in particular, they give you essentially not only the current status of your expenses and subscriptions, but also suggestions when it comes to saving. And apparently everything works really well in a nice UX flow that where actually you can be extremely aware and eventually like switch from operator to operator. So I enjoy that. I think it's a good idea. I don't know how easy actually and quick that can be, but I can see the problem and I can see how somebody will solve that. So that's not bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was looking at a few of the numbers that you can find in the article. So let me read it out. Switcho is basically 3 years old. They have 250,000 users registered on the platform, and they received the equivalent of 30 million euros of savings proposal and 30,000 switch. 1 in 8.
Yeah.
One user in 8 has switched one of its any whatever utilities subscriptions through Switcho.
That's crazy.
1 in 8.
That's a huge traction. It's a huge traction, and definitely there is something good for sure.
Yeah, and I believe there is some returning effect as you remain a user of Switcho. This year you subscribe to a certain provider, and the next year there is a better tariff.
Yeah,
and you move on. Then there's probably some kind of accumulating effect here.
No, totally.
It's a long play. Because I don't believe that you're going to change the tariff every other month, but still.
The thing is I feel it's kind of recurring, not recurring in a short-term sense, because at least once a year, the both of us, we always have like a thought crossing our mind, being like, what if I switch to another phone operator? At least once a year, I would say, and everybody's in the same situation. And if there is a way with like literally 4 clicks, I can do it and forget about it, and they tell me they save money, man, I don't see the barrier there, because it's just such a painful process. Utilities are painful.
That's a good point. So making switching as easy as going downstairs and purchasing a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
It will have an effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I agree with you.
And it's market fluidity, really, and this is like definitely toward fluid. Sometimes we don't switch operators because it's too much of a pain, and we just skip it. We'd rather pay more sometimes. So there is something there. There is something there. It's
a real commoditization of the utility operator.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Awesome. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into the corporate VC stuff then. Very interesting week. Well, one of the most active, I would say, in terms of corporate VC. 2 big announcements, and let's take them as a couple. So Angelini launched Angelini Ventures. It's VC arm with about 300 million euro under management and focus on digital tech. And secondly, Brembo, the braking company, announced Brembo Ventures, again a VC arm focused on mobility and the automotive sector. So very interesting pattern. The more we move forward, the more it kind of solidifies. We see this big corporation kind of trying to aggregate talent to actually launch their venture capital arms. If it's like an R&D play or a purely financial play, that's still like we'll see in the future. But talking about Brembo, I thought it was very interesting because it's a very broad scope approach. So first of all, the person that is managing Brembo Ventures is the Chief Business Development Officer. So that tells me that they don't really have yet like a general partner sort of figure. They're probably working towards it. But what they're doing is really looking into the strategy in a very wide variety of way, which is, they want to support the technical evolution of the industry. They want to invest in other venture capital funds and partnering with technological incubators. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of entry point, I would say. That tells me that it's not like a classical strategy where they come up with like a VC vehicle, which is independently from the big company. No, it's really ingrained into the business itself. And of course, they're gonna basically work in the mobility and automotive space, and well, no brainer. And with a focus, of course, in the future of braking system. So we'll see exactly what they're gonna bring out. So awesome job for the company. Definitely something worth talking about and worth looking at. And with that said, let's talk about the investment that they made, which is acquisition of 6.8% of PhotonPath, basically creating a solution for digitalization of braking system.
PhotonPath is a spin-off from the PolyMe, I would say. Mm-hmm. They basically they're a hardware startup, and they are developing a system for using discrete fiber optics instead of discrete circuits instead of fiber optics in the telecommunication environment. Whereas the starting point was probably related to the telco boxes that they are down the road when there are junctions and when you have continuations in communication lines, so down the road. There is a lot of fiber going around there. That's very delicate. It breaks easily. So there are some issues with these items, and they created a discrete version of it. So instead of having a cable of fiber optics, they have a buffer with the same functionality.
Very interesting.
They have some, that's not my bread and butter, as you may understand, but some advantage in the telco, the broader telco market.
Yeah, and it's
the
not
play
the first...
here might.
Yeah.
The play here might have to something to do in the automotive sector by, as you know, cars are becoming computing centers on wheels. So keeping the lights on and communication going in these computing centers is
cars are becoming iPhones, so
even worse, because iPhone has a couple of CPUs. Cars have dozens of CPUs independently going around. I mean, Teslas have probably other brands are coming there, but they're becoming quite complex in terms of computation.
That's a good point. Yeah. All right, that's cool. And the photonic part really seems to, it's a pattern, because that's not their first investment. It's their second investment of Brembo. Officially, as Brembo Venture, it's basically the first one officially. But they've been trying to look into the field in like since 2014 at least. So that's really cool.
What's not clear from the article is something that you mentioned. It's whether they are investing and will keep the companies out of their balance sheet.
Yeah.
So there is a unit managing investments, or there is an actual holding company that will keep and manage the.
That's a good point. I'm totally curious about that, and that's a great point in terms of governance, because it changes pretty much everything, and it's one of the heaviest decisions to take when structuring a CVC firm. So that's the idea. Talking about Angelini, that's also interesting, because here we have, just to do a little bit comparison, a full capital commitment, which tells me it's really like a proper entity, thought out like a fund with 300 million, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. But what I can see is that because of the nature of the firm, Angelini, which is, basically they do a lot. They do a lot of product, they do a lot of chemical components, there is a full list. So that tells me that this capital commitment has a flavor of R&D ingrained into that, which makes perfect sense. And historically, actually, like pharma / chemical companies, they've been like one of the first innovators using this kind of way of thinking when it comes to R&D. It just makes sense. So
yeah, agree with you. That's part of this play maybe have to do with outsourcing. So placing R&D investments outside of your balance sheet and accelerating the approach to new things going on. So it's an open innovation / financial play.
Totally.
That's interesting.
Super cool though. Super cool. They already have some companies in portfolio, not only from all across the world, France, North America mostly. Definitely touching a lot of some of the major biotech innovation probably. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Moving on then, let's talk about Primo Space Investment. Just to give a shout out to the team of Primo. Basically investing in CHAI, UK-based startup. And pretty interesting. Basically, the company is working on the risk in commodity price movements through, I believe, what is basically, of course, artificial intelligence in general. And that's an interesting take, definitely. That's a super interesting take.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of undisclosures as of today on that round. So I can't say much, and I don't know much. As you know, we are different teams within the firm, but basically it's a play in Primo Space that for sure has to do with the macro environment in the space sector. So as rare earths materials are important, and I believe they also use some space technology in order to provide their forecasts about price movements. So there is some utilization and some side effects in the space technology, space economy.
Awesome. Right.
We will know more in the coming days.
I know. I'm not going to push this button anymore. We're going to move on. So let's talk about Neva SGR launching the Sviluppo Ecosistemi di Innovazione. This is one of the few funds of funds that we talk about. This is interesting because they're trying to basically build an overarching funds of fund, trying to finance the full ecosystem of accelerators, startup studios, and holding companies. So that's pretty interesting. What's your take on this? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, indeed, it's something that I didn't expect out of Intesa, but they very welcome. Because that's an interesting move. And from the article, it's focused on the Italian market. So it's unlike Neva, which invests according to the strategic and financial will, investing in Israel and investing abroad quite a bit. This is, as you said, an ecosystem investment. So it's aimed at supporting Italy. And it's opportunistic in the sense that, as you know, CDP has been investing a lot in creating acceleration programs. So CDP has basically created a lot of interesting bits where to put capital in initial startups. And CDP is welcoming for investments from the ecosystem into the accelerators. And CDP is not the only player actually launching initiatives in Italy. We've got Founders Factory, a couple of bullet points below, that's opening up in Italy as well. So it's a very interesting decision at a very good point in time, I believe.
Super interesting.
And from the article, they are not limited to the 15 million provided by Intesa. They aim at raising up to 50 million, I believe. Which
not a bad allocation.
If you think about the leverage effect of this money, it will have some very good implications on the ecosystem, I believe.
No, good point. Fantastic. All right, some closing remarks maybe. Let's talk about, there's been a lot of work that's interesting. I mean, being done, especially also in the pre-seed phase. Let's talk about YAG launching Eden Venture, which is a pre-seed startup garden. I never heard of the term startup garden, honestly. I think it's cool. But yeah, the idea is to have like some of the talented angels that are part of Italian Angel for Growth, basically pulling together resources and being extremely fast. So the idea is to deploy up to 100K in just 30 days. So from the moment apparently that they're going to receive the deal up to deployment, that's their kind of unique way of proceeding.
Yeah, I might define it as the Exor Seeds play. Basically, they're committed to investing 100,000 a month for the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
More or less. Be blunt about it.
25 startup over the next 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So build a wide portfolio in a very small amount of time. Betting on getting in very early in interesting startups that will be able to raise more capital in the future.
Nice.
And where you have actually some firepower waiting for you. From all the YAG members. So interesting play.
Awesome. And shout out to Silvia, which I was working with, mentoring a few startups. So awesome job. That's good. And Nick, on the final note, let's talk about your article and your recommendation of the top Italian startup to watch. So let's talk about that. I thought it was very cool.
Well, every now and then, these are good things that happen where you can, talk about the ecosystem. It's something that we've been doing for quite a while. I've been doing for quite a while in the newsletter. So, I'm reaping the fruits of our work, Jack.
It's good.
The idea there, apart from the recommendation, there are a lot of very interesting startups in Italy. I could have, named a lot of other startups, but I just wanted to name a few that have been actually censored. So I will keep the other two that I provided for myself.
Okay, cool.
But I think that in this case, this is not the first time that Sifted published this list of startups to keep an eye on by the investors. I think that in this case, we provided, and me and the other colleagues, that they provided great selections. We went a bit earlier, a bit more courageous in our suggestions, because there are a lot of seed stage startups in there. Whereas in the first time they published the article a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, they were like, later stage startups. Casavo was featured among them.
Oh, wow.
So that's, I believe, a good signal that there are good teams coming up, where we are so much confident that we named them at the European level, because they're doing great things. So
beautiful.
But again, I could have named many others, and they would have been absolutely the same. So
awesome.
I picked Sibyl this time, but I believe that we've got a lot of talent coming up. We'll see in the next couple of years good things happening, I believe.
Awesome.
I really hope.
All right. On this positive note, Nick, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jack. See you in a week. Ciao, everybody. Have a great week.